Let's turn our attention to the future, looking at cases that have cited to our case after its publication. You know these as citing references or citing decisions. There are two purposes to looking into the future at direct history. One, it can help you to determine if your case is still good law, and two, as a way to find cases that say the opposite of what your case says. Let's look at this in Lexis. Sticking with United States v. Vinton, we see that it has a yellow triangle, which means caution, possible negative treatment. You find out the reason this was the symbol given by either clicking on the signal, clicking on citing decisions and filtering by the analysis, or clicking the signal in the right-hand bar, which gives you the option of jumping to that part of the case. We see by doing this that U.S. v. Jackson distinguished our case, which is a fancy way of saying that U.S. v. Jackson chose not to follow Vinton, as Jackson has a different set of facts. If we read this and those set of facts are similar to ours, we might want to go read that case. If not, then our case is still good law. But what about a case that might actually be no longer valid? Let's take a look at United States v. Lee. Oh no, it has a red stop sign. Abandon ship. Not quite. Let's go take a look at our analysis. I can head to citing decisions and look at the analysis filter. I see that one case has overruled Lee in part. What does that mean? When we go look at it, we see U.S. v. Howe states that Lee neglected to apply Taylor's framework. But then below we see that another point of law, this case is still good. So is our case bad law? Only for that point of law that was overruled, the rest is still valid. Don't forget to then go look at the citing decisions to see how other cases treated this case, even if not negatively. 4 cases cited to Lee positively. If you like what this case has to say, maybe go take a look at those. Let's switch our attention to Westlaw. In Westlaw, a red striped flag or a red flag is going to be cause for pause. Here in Hannah, we see that red striped flag, meaning this case is no longer valid on at least one point of law. Which one, you ask? Well, we could look at that by using the overruled in part arrows, by going to the negative treatment tab, or going to citing decisions and filtering by negative treatment. If we use the arrows, it takes us to that part of the case that has now been overruled, so we can see what headnotes it affects. Let's go look at the negative treatment tab. We are told here that this case was overruled by Rye v. Women's case in 2015 on these 3 headnotes. And many other on those same headnotes superseded this case by statute, and that many other cases recognize this overruling. I would probably say that those 3 points of law are overruled, and we would not want to cite to this case for those points of law. Other points of law, though, all systems point to go. Again, you'll want to look also at citing references to see how other cases treated Hannah. If we hide the negative cases, we find cases that have examined or discussed Hannon. However, these were all mostly before Rye v. Women's Care overruled that part of our case, so we'd still want to be careful about citing to it. Let's take a look at one more case. Here in Miles v. Harrison, we see a red flag, and we know that this is the most negative treatment Westlaw gives. We can see right away that the judgment of this case was reversed by Miles v. Harrison at the Supreme Court level. Let's get a graphical view of this by going to the History tab. Our case is outlined in orange, and we see that it went to the Georgia Supreme Court where the judgment was reversed, and then remanded back down to the Georgia Appellate Court where they conformed their opinion to the ruling of the Supreme Court. So is our case still good law? Nope. We'd need to go look at the higher reversing decision or the appellate level remanded case. We would not want to cite to this case. Let's go play around with Citators for a second.